Hello and welcome to the Tifo Football Podcast. I'm Joe Devine, and I'm now joined by Seb Stafford Bloor. Hello, Seb.
Hello, Joe Devine.
How are you?
I'm very well.
It's lovely to see you.
Also you.
Also, JJ Bull the Bullet.
Hello, Joe.
There we go. That's fine. Lots of stuff to be talking about today. We'll kick things off with discussion related to the invasion of Ukraine, of course. There's been lots of impact on football, with Roman Abramovich in particular. We'll be discussing that. And, of course, all things FIFA, too. FIFA have reacted to the ongoing situation related to FAs around Europe refusing or saying that their football teams will refuse to play Russian football teams. So that is top of the billing for us to discuss today, but it won't be just that. Liverpool, of course, won the thing. We'll talk about that thing that they won and in the manner in which they won it. Bielsa, he's gone, so we'll talk about that. West Ham won a game of football, as did Manchester City. Surprise, surprise, that's at the end, because who cares about that? Stop listening before then, you know?
That won't be worth it. Don't persevere until that point.
It won't be worth it. Perseverance is not required there. But do you know where perseverance is required?
Where?
Plugging The Athletic. I do it every week, but I'm happy to do it because of the high quality material available for you to read and discuss on theathletic.com. That's right, visit theathletic.com/Tifo, theathletic.com/Tifo to find yourself some kind of deal that you can get attainable to you. Probably a sort of free trial deal, maybe
30
for a
days
month.
for £1 or something.
I think it's 30 days for free.
That's very good.
Try before you buy.
Good deal.
And it's quite a good time to try because there's lots of interesting things on there this weekend. So visit theathletic.com/Tifo to try before you buy. 30-day free trial. There we go. Very exciting. That's everything, is it? Is that all the admin done? Yeah? Fine. Well, I'll leave you then in the warm hands and the cool embrace of Seb Stafford Bloor and JJ Bull the Bullet. So there's quite a lot to digest with what's happening, the invasion of Ukraine, Seb. There's the Abramovich part of it, which we can discuss perhaps afterwards. Maybe we should come to FIFA first, because as far as I understand, there are several FAs, football associations around Europe, that have already come out essentially in support of Ukraine and said, we won't have our football teams and or sports teams be facing Russian football teams and or sports teams, in some cases, regardless of what they call themselves, which I think you can explain to me now as a result of the first FIFA response.
Yeah, so essentially FIFA have been kind of outmaneuvered here because by the time they announced their sanction, in inverted commas, Sunday night, and the weekend had been spent watching people or hearing from individuals within the game or football associations within the game who had stolen a march. So first out of the gate, the Polish FA said that they wouldn't be playing any fixtures against any Russian teams in any competition. That included sort of individual comments from Wojciech Szczesny, who spoke very eloquently and very well about this. Robert Lewandowski also spoke out. And by the end of the weekend, the Czech Republic Football Association, the Swedish Football Association, the English FA, they'd all followed suit.
It's worth pointing out as well, I think the Swiss FA said that their team wouldn't be playing Russia's team in the Women's Euros in their opening game, which I guess is the first sort of significant milestone along the coming course.
Well, yeah, because I suppose also because Poland are playing a World Cup qualifier against the Russian men's team. But I think the point here is that you have two types of response. The first is kind of the individual football associations being very definitive, and should we point out now that we're recording this on Monday lunchtime, and by Tuesday, I expect there'll be many more joining this camp.
Yes, it's also possible that FIFA will have issued another statement between now and then.
Well, I think that's probably quite likely because the statement they did release was very meek. They said, basically, paraphrasing here, that they wouldn't allow Russia to play in full stadiums, wouldn't allow them to play under the identity Russia. They said that they would allow them to play, but with under the identity of RFA, RFU, Russian Unified
RFU.
Football. I don't know. Either way, it's very FIFA response because it's
You mean by which you mean it's a nothing response?
It's a sanction
that doesn't help anyone.
Yeah, because
and just means they'll have to go and make another thing later.
It's a
time delay.
It's a way of appearing to take action without actually taking any action whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's a box ticking exercise. We've done a thing. We're not doing nothing.
Yeah.
But in a way, they are doing.
It's like when
nothing.
I'm after dinner time, I'm on the couch.
Yes.
There's a scattering of crockery on the table, and I want to indicate to my wife that I'll be doing the washing up. But all I really do is organise the plates on top of each other on the coffee table and then sit back down. Know what I'm saying?
I would say that you aren't even organising the plates at all. I think you're just moving them around the table.
Kind of.
You know, they're in the same place. They're just as dirty.
No, for sure.
They need just as much attention. And yet you've done something, but you haven't contributed to
Did I mention
the task.
Did I mention that my wife is Gianni Infantino? Because he's always doing that to me, as evidenced by now.
Do the washing up at all?
Yeah, fine. Okay, well, that's the initial FIFA response. Of course, FAs have come out since then, some of them, as you mentioned, and said, no, even with what you're saying, still no. I think the Polish FA did this. And again, as you said, there'll probably be more. This situation is not going away, and I can't see any scenario in which Poland play Russia. This is certainly with the current state of affairs come their World Cup qualifier. I say the first one of significance being the Women's Euros because it's the first actual tournament coming up, working out how the World Cup works. I mean, at this stage, with World Cup qualification, the way that FIFA what their decree is, basically they would be saying, well, Russia would kind of get through on a technicality then because teams not playing them would presumably incur the penalties.
Yeah, so Szczesny touched on this when he issued his statement. He talks about the possibility of that. But I think there's a sort of an unwritten pressure here because if someone like Wojciech Szczesny or Robert Lewandowski says, well, I'm not going to play, this is my personal responsibility, whatever happens, I'm not going to play. Yeah. Well, if you're not going to play, that requires a replacement, a different goalkeeper, different centre forward. That puts whoever that would be in a terrible situation. Mm-hmm. And so, whatever the stance remains, you can't have a situation where Poland put out a second team or the Polish FA roll back. By the way, there's no indication that the Polish FA would do that. They have been the kind of the most vociferous of all the football associations.
Or that there are Polish players who would choose to do that.
Exactly that. We don't know that. We're just we're guessing our way through the situation. So I don't see. This is what I meant by they've been sort of FIFA had been beaten to the punch really, because by the time their statement came out, it was obvious that none of these football associations were going to accept the sanctions handed down because the statements that they had individually issued were already much stronger and already put them in a position where it would be impossible for them to take a step back. It'd be so definitive. You can't then say, oh yeah, and on second thoughts, it's fine if you don't play a national anthem. You just can't. It's
I didn't realise they weren't going to play the music. That's
exactly that. Oh, it's going to be the same players, but actually with a different identity and a slightly different kit. It's not going to watch it. So, no, I don't. This is a point of no return. And also, FIFA, if nothing else, is a political organization. It is a political animal. The damage of defaulting Russia through the World Cup draw to the point where they win the World Cup.
Sure,
can't do it.
It doesn't seem like that's the correct idea.
Don't think so. But also, it sort of that strikes right at the heart of the game's credibility, and you can't do it.
Yeah,
you can't do it. So I'd imagine by the time this podcast comes out, we will have a revised sort of no, this is actually what we meant kind of statement from FIFA. But watch this space, I guess. Yeah,
worth saying as well, I suppose. On a personal note, I feel a bit sad for the players of the Russian national team, who of course have not caused this situation. And it's worth pointing out as well, we've seen lots of posts on social media and statements over the weekend from people within Russia who very clearly do not support the invasion of Ukraine. We've got lots of Russian listeners. We have an awful lot of Ukrainian listeners as well. I'm curious to understand now how this relates to the situation with Roman Abramovich, because that's a tricky one as well, Seb.
Yeah, tricky one. I'm going to tread very, very carefully.
Sure.
So the latest with this actually is that we think that Roman Abramovich has been requested to be part of some kind of peace brokering talks at the request of the Ukrainian government. That's the latest news as of 12:22 on Monday afternoon. Mm-hmm. Don't know if that is going to happen or has in fact taken place, but that's the latest breaking news. With respect to Chelsea, situation a little bit more vague because
stewardship.
Yeah, stewardship
makes me think of Gondor. Well, remember Gondor?
I don't know. I don't know who that is.
Gondor.
It's just Lord of the Rings.
In the land of Lord of the Rings in
You
Middle Earth.
did use your Lord of the Rings voice for that.
Gondor.
So I could have guessed. Yes.
Well, Gondor is the city of men in Lord of the Rings. It's a sort of the unofficial capital of humans.
the London.
The sort of the London, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And it's neighboured by the river town Osgiliath, and of course it's one of the closest geographical locations to Mordor. Where the orcs and Sauron obviously are coming from, making their birth.
The orcs and what?
Sauron.
What is a Sauron?
What is a Sauron?
Is that a people? Is that a type of? Is that like a goblin?
Sauron. Have you not seen Lord of the Rings? Good Lord. Okay.
I don't know. Is that the eye?
Sauron is
volcano?
the big bad evil guy, the
the
worst
eye,
guy.
The eye on fire.
Well, it's called the Eye of Sauron, but that's just one of his tools. Where
does he live?
Where does he lives in Mordor
In a house?
I've never seen his house. I think actually he's killed by a Isildur 3,000 years before the beginning of the story of Lord of the Rings, and he's sort of trying to rematerialize. So he never actually really rematerializes. He kind of lives in the eye. Yeah, fine. He lives in the eye. Anyway, the point I'm saying is that Gondor's true king, of course, Aragorn, doesn't want it. Yeah, he is
Aragorn the spider.
He's in the family lineage of Isildur. Aragorn is not the spider. No.
Who's the spider?
I can't remember the spider's name.
Aragorn.
Aragorn was Man United's name in like Pro Evolution Soccer 2. Do you remember that?
No.
Shelob. The spider's name is Shelob. There you go.
Shelob the spider.
The point I'm making is that stewardship, right?
Yeah.
The steward of Gondor. There's only been stewards for many, many years. This is a complete waste of time. Carry on.
So the important point about stewardship as a term is, as has been made clear by many of the athletics excellent journalists, it's not a legal term.
Did they use any Lord of the Rings analogies?
Adam Croft might have done.
He might have done.
But it might have been edited out.
Yeah.
He loves a Lord of the Rings.
He really likes it. It's one of his favourite things.
It is, but maybe it just didn't survive the...
It's not a legal term.
It's not a legal term.
It doesn't really mean anything.
So
legally speaking.
That statement was issued by Chelsea on Saturday night. Since then, a few very, very strange things have happened. One of which is that the stewards themselves, the trustees...
oh, look at that. Is that my phone?
It's mine.
It's your phone. Seb's phone there has fallen out of his pocket.
Mordor.
It's gone to Mordor, and it's made a loud noise in Mordor.
And you're doing your face where you're smiling, but you're not happy with me at all.
You'll be punished
You're
later.
kind of burning.
Yeah. There's a punishment coming.
He is angry in real life.
Yeah.
Anyway, the trustees to whom Roman Abramovich is handing stewardship, in inverted commas, of Chelsea, by Sunday it had been reported that they hadn't actually agreed to that, or that they hadn't been consulted before that decision was made.
Did they know before the announcement?
Unclear. Doesn't seem that way, or at least several of the people involved within that trustee group claim not to have been aware,
Okay.
or not to have been aware until an hour or two before
or they don't know what it means because no one does.
Well, join the club, because not a lot of people. I mean, when the statement was issued, a lot of people kind of recoiled in horror, like, "Oh, this is very, very dramatic for Chelsea." And 2 days later, it's not clear at the moment whether there is any material effect on Chelsea.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah,
why would he do that?
that's a tricky one.
You can be speculative, I suppose.
Yes, and I am. Let's put speculating in big block capital letters.
Seb's personal opinion.
Yeah. Nothing to do with the Athletic or Tifo Football. Probably to create layers of separation.
Sure.
Because obviously Roman Abramovich as an individual could be sanctioned. And
should we explain why that should be the case, or could be the case?
Well, let's also say you can do that bit. That's
sure.
a good bit for you.
I can say that Roman Abramovich is known as a Russian oligarch, is what they say. He's a man who used the loans and shares scheme as part of the fallout of the Soviet Union to earn his great wealth. He bought Sibneft, I think it's called, for £100 million or dollars, which was actually worth $3 billion, something like that. And it is the source of all of Roman Abramovich's wealth. And there are various extremely wealthy Russian men, largely known as oligarchs, many of whom are around. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, and also many of them potentially facing sanction.
Yes,
and
I'm trying to get to the nub of why it's difficult to do that.
So, Okay, this is
I'm
probably...
finding it difficult.
Let's deal with this in the abstract. So basically, the reason to avoid sanction
Should we use a Lord of the Rings analogy?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah?
You'll have
Oligarchs does sound like a Lord of the Rings word.
Okay.
So, no, this is definitely worse. That's definitely, never mind, you go.
I think the point
I've got one, but I do think
But
it's not legally permissible.
You can apply it to something else
No,
in the
I think
podcast.
it's too
in the podcast,
clear.
But, you
I
can,
think it's too,
Okay.
it's not legally permissible.
sanction, basically, there might be a situation where, as the owner of Chelsea, if Roman Abramovich were to face sanction
By the UK.
by the UK government, his assets could be frozen, and by proxy, that would mean Chelsea's assets.
Therefore, by creating separation, he is at once protecting Chelsea, which is what he says,
That's what the statement said. Yes,
and theoretically also protecting an asset that he owns.
yeah. In his statement, he also talked about he didn't want the attention that he's facing to involve Chelsea.
Sure.
So he is again, trying to distance himself.
Here's a question. I don't know
from-
if you can answer this or not.
Probably not.
Because stewardship isn't a legal term.
Yeah,
Has he actually done that?
unclear.
Unclear.
Yeah,
Unclear.
I think it's very, very telling that 48 hours later, there isn't really a definitive account of what any of this means in the UK press.
Yeah.
And I don't expect to see one soon. So
No.
watch this.
All we know is in Adam
develop.
Crafton's piece.
Hey, Adam's piece is great. Adam's
It
piece
is
is
good.
all about the last, what happened during the weekend at Chelsea, which obviously involves this situation and everything happening in Ukraine, but also preparations for the League Cup final and the conversations between all the kind of the powers at the club at Wembley on Sunday.
Yes.
So yeah, very, very interesting and obviously very well sourced, as you'd expect from Adam.
Okay. Well, thanks, Seb. That was an extremely detailed and intelligent response. JJ, would you like to sing a song about a ghost or something? Or
Yeah.
yeah,
Ghost boy living in the
ghost
studio.
world.
Ghost world. It's Ghost boy. Here he is. I've lost confidence in this.
yes, you did. I saw that happen. That's why I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I've been talking for a while, so I've sort of gone quiet.
no, that's fine. That's fine.
Scotland are playing Ukraine in the World Cup qualifier,
Are they
the playoff? Yeah.
a chance to show solidarity?
Well, this is the thing. So, isn't that quite complicated? Because who wants to be the team that puts Ukraine out? It's at Hampden Park.
I don't
It's in
think it'll
Scotland.
be Scotland anyway, so I don't think you need to worry about
I mean,
that.
it's the World Cup. Obviously,
Went
Scotland
a
get
little
through.
bit Ali McLeod there with that, I think.
Yeah.
Dunno.
I mean, you have to dream.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
yeah, there are more important things than the World Cup, I guess.
This is true. Yeah. Fine. Well, we'll go for a break, and when we come back, we will discuss things that aren't as important as the World Cup. Okay, we've returned. What a lovely break that was. Liverpool won the thing. Kepa missed the penalty there. I watched most of the second half and then had dinner and switched off before the penalty. So
What was the thing that you learned during this game?
What was the thing I learnt during this game?
Yeah.
Did I tell you I learnt something?
You learned a thing about this game.
Did I?
As a result of this game. Not football related, really. More sort of.
The Carabao.
Yeah, you found out what Carabao was.
I found out what the Carabao was.
We were interested to know what you thought it was before.
It sounds like caribou. Those
The animal.
Alaskan deer things.
It's a band.
I mean,
And a band, yeah.
Well, a DJ, I guess.
I mean, that would be a strange sponsorship.
I don't
they were
know.
to-
Yeah. I genuinely had never paid it any mind before. I never thought about it. I don't know what that says about the sort of value of sponsoring tournaments like this. I know the name Carabao. Maybe if can you see one in a shop?
I went to a League Cup final a few years ago, and there was a massive promotional bottle of it on Wembley Way, and sort of volunteers, employees, handing out samples of it. I didn't.
From one big bottle.
No, the bottle was purely promotional. They had little cups, and it kind of ruined my day because I'm
Doesn't take much,
I'm
does
not
it?
an Alex Stewart. I'm not an energy drinker.
Sure.
An energy drinker. An
Well,
energy drinker.
in both ways, Alex Stewart can apply
Yeah.
to that.
And it gave me a lot of bad energy. I didn't
Right.
enjoy it. It kind of tarnished the memory. Of,
Get
that
fucked, Carabao. Who cares? Yeah, your product shit, apparently, according to Seb Stafford Law, not the opinion of the
personal
Tifo
opinion.
Football
Personal
Podcast.
opinion. I don't like it.
I don't know. I've never had it. But what did it used to be sponsored by? The League Cup.
Coca-Cola,
I know that.
Worthington, Capital One,
Capital One.
Milk Cup.
Milk Cup.
Yeah. Milk Cup was good. No, Milk Cup's a good sponsorship.
It's just a funny word. Anyway, it doesn't matter who sponsors it. That's what I learned. I learned that it's an energy drink. I just assumed it was like a reinsurance vehicle or something. I don't know. That's why I assume all of the things are. But how about this? I was thinking over the weekend when I realised that. I thought, do people generally know what the sponsors are? Do you know what Sharp did, for example? I know that you know, but let's ask if JJ knows. JJ, do you know what AIA did?
I'd assume it's some sort of insurance thing.
I think it is.
But this is the thing. What am I? Do they genuinely get more custom out of people knowing that? I mean, brand awareness is very important. You put it in, so suddenly it legitimizes it. So that's the whole point. So you're trying to look for insurance, and you see, oh, AIA, they sponsor Man United. They must be. It
makes you look like a real thing.
Yeah.
Particularly, I think it is when you're spending lots of money, or lots of money is involved in something. You want legit, right? And with financial companies, it's quite hard unless you get a recommendation or something. Maybe it is just that you can recognise that they're the sponsor of Man United, therefore you can trust them.
Yeah, and also like most of those sponsorship deals involve like an activation strategy. So if it was a financial instrument, then it would involve, I don't know, Wayne Rooney remortgaging his house or something. Then you can think, that's as good as Trustpilot. That's like a 5-star review. Yeah. Wayne Rooney uses it.
Listen, if Wayne Rooney did anything in the financial world, I'd follow it for sure. For sure.
Do you now drink Casillera del Diablo, whatever it is?
No, but I know what it is.
Great adverts.
That advert really worked well, didn't it?
Yeah.
It worked well.
What did they say?
A new devil is coming.
They say a new devil.
A new devil is arriving.
Yeah. Though doesn't he say something else about him as well? As new devil is arriving.
They say he is a legend. It's one of the great. You don't know what we're talking about.
He's a legend because he turns up with some bottles of wine for the lads, eh?
I think everyone must have seen this advert by now. But there's a Man United wine sponsor advert which has Wayne Rooney. I think it's Patrice Evra, and Ryan Giggs in it.
Giggs, yeah.
And they deliver their lines just spectacularly well. Just spectacularly.
I was watching television last night, and there was a company selling double glazing or something. And they've got a sale going on, and they were like, there's savings to be made. And at that point, David Seaman bursts into shot with his old goalkeeping gloves on. You just think, really? Like,
genius.
How'd you go?
No, I like that.
Yeah.
No, but why would you...
But tell you what, I'd get those windows even if I lived in a cave.
And he's chuckling, and it's David Seaman. David Seaman has one gear as a media personality, just chuckles a lot.
Yeah.
He's
missing the ponytail now, though,
he is missing the ponytail, but then it's kind of really, you built your advertising campaign around him.
I'd build a campaign around Seaman, for sure. I genuinely meant David Seaman. I really did mean David Seaman. I did.
Okay, I haven't talked at all for any of the really important Ukraine-Russia stuff, and I'm just laughing at Seaman jokes.
In Germany.
I just want to make it 100% clear. I actually did mean David Seaman. I wasn't going for a low-hanging fruit joke. It wasn't crass.
Puerile.
Yeah, no puerility here.
So what I've noted during my time in Germany is that ex-German footballers are used in sort of more mature advertising roles. So Bastian Schweinsteiger and his wife Anna Ivanovic, they promote a kind of garden centre, and there's a series of adverts in which like Bastian's he's mown his lawn and he's looking off into the distance. Anna's got the barbecue going, and
I bet Basti loves some DIY.
He seems to. He really seems to. He loves that DIY company. He's always building a shed on TV.
Yeah, and
I just compare it to David Seaman with his goalkeeping gloves talking about like double glazing. It's a kind of it's a different sort of advertising culture.
Yeah, very interesting. What works for the Germans works not for the English.
Thomas Müller is the spokesman for one of my local furniture stores.
Yeah,
bought a sofa from there.
Yeah,
well done, Hofner.
There you go.
And Thomas Müller.
Well, furniture is all about space, isn't it?
Sure is. And who better? Who better to
understand space and investigate it? Anyway, Liverpool won that game, so. Congratulations.
I know it's really sad for Kepa, like all the pressure coming on as a substitute.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Probably not very fair.
So tell me what happened. He wasn't playing in the game.
No.
I heard that Edouard Mendy had a good game.
He was brilliant.
But they took him off because Kepa has a higher percentage of penalty saved. Is that why?
I don't know. I think it was because of he's played other League Cup games, hasn't he? But he put Mendy in for most of the game, and I can't remember who. I think Matt Law of Telegraph said that he made one of the best saves he'd ever seen live, like a double save. I think from Manny at close range, it was absolutely superb. So you'd think he'd have the kind of like he'd be so confident
in the zone.
Yeah, he's in the zone definitely. And then you go into that penalty shootout, and you think, well, you'd have him there. Kepa comes on, doesn't save anything, doesn't really get close to anything. If it's like maybe a weak hand, he should probably...
The Van Dijk one where, so if you didn't see it, for the Van Dijk penalty, Kepa tried to sort of win the battle of wits by moving over to one side of his goal, sort of tempting Van Dijk to go down the other side, of course. And instead, Van Dijk just absolutely slammed it straight at him, at his face. It just went in. And Kepa, if Kepa had put up a hand in time, he'd have saved it. It was that close to him. But
poor boy.
That was Tuchel's explanation that he is, by the data, Kepa is technically a better performing goalkeeper against penalties. And saved one in the Super Cup at the beginning of the season. But then Mendy saved one in the AFCON final.
The thing is, though, I would wonder if, by all measurable metrics, fine, he is the better penalty saver. Is that ever measured in a scenario in a cup final after 120 minutes when he's substituted on without having touched the ball under all that pressure? I think not.
Do you know, I would imagine everyone and saves it, and you say Tuchel's a genius for putting him on, and that's, remember was it the World Cup when Tim Krul came on?
Yeah.
Same sort of thing. Like, if it hadn't worked, you think Louis van Gaal was an idiot because he's putting them on, but it looks like he's a genius. That's the little things go that way.
Fine margins.
I suppose so. I think if I remember this rightly, Tim Krul replaced Jesper Cillessen, who had a famously bad record against penalties. The thing with Mendy is, like, I understand if Mendy had been a spectator, done nothing in the game, had a no track record to speak of in penalty shootouts, I get it. But Mendy's come off winning a major international tournament less than a month ago. He played. I thought that was one of the great performances in a final I've seen in recent memory.
And he saved the penalty.
No. In the AFCON final, he saved one of the penalties.
That's
the other one was missed. But what I mean is, in this particular game, Mendy had been brilliant. Mendy has created an aura around himself. He has denied Liverpool again and again and again. I think there's a psychological merit to putting that goalkeeper in goal for the shootout and saying, all right, you can't beat him. You haven't beaten him. Try now. Whereas Kepa, I don't know. I think I've always felt it's a pressurized situation to put a goalkeeper into, because a penalty shootout should be a kind of a free hit for a goalkeeper. If you've done nothing in the game and you come on for penalties and you also end up taking one, that's a difficult spot, particularly for Kepa, who hasn't had the best time at Chelsea.
It's especially difficult if you take a penalty like it's a goal kick.
Yes, that makes it harder.
And launch it. I mean,
Kelleher's penalty was absolutely brilliant, though.
Oh, all the penalties are actually really well taken. There's a couple. I'd love to know what an actual goalkeeper thinks, whether some of them are more savable than they were. I think Kelleher was close and could maybe have done better with a couple, with my very limited knowledge of goalkeeping. But yes.
Well, anyway, well done to Liverpool there.
Great final.
I saw a very funny tweet this morning. Apologies, I can't remember who tweeted it, but they said Luis Diaz ends his long wait for a Liverpool trophy. What's that, a month?
God, he's a good player.
He is good, isn't he?
Yeah.
I like him. He's tricky.
Yeah.
He's a tricky boy.
There was a little bit of skill down the Chelsea right. I think it was it would have been in the second half, where he took a touch and just, I think it might have been, can't remember who it was against, but just touched it round Chelsea fullback and just burst straight into about 20 yards of space in behind him. And it was so quick. It was so quick. And it was also
lightning.
But it was also one of those where you saw the ball coming to him and you saw how quickly he'd calculated what he needed to do and how well he executed it. It was just kind of it was like watching Eden Hazard at his best.
Yeah.
It was like that. It was
Do you know, when he was substituted off, I saw he had the highest number by some distance of touches in the opposition box.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me.
There we go.
Super aggressive player.
Okay.
In a good way.
Good stuff. Well done, everyone.
Should we talk about Bielsa?
Yeah, let's do
That's
that
kinda
after the break,
interesting.
though. I was just
Okay.
that long hours. Should we have a break?
Let's do the break.
I think we'll have a break. That is to indicate the break is over. Yeah? And also over is the tenure of Marcelo Bielsa at Leeds United. A sad day for everyone, really, because that was cool, wasn't it? I enjoyed that while it was happening.
They're one of the most fun teams to watch. This is the problem. Like, look, Jesse Marsh is going to come in, right? And
has that been announced now?
I don't know if it's
Romano's tweeted it.
at time of
Oh,
filming.
really?
There
Yeah.
we go, guy. Yeah.
Fabrizio Romano.
Yeah.
You can normally rely on him, yeah. But regardless, Leeds got promoted from the Championship, having not been able to do it for years and years and years and years, because they went with the Bielsa route. There is no right or wrong tactic. Everyone's now saying that the man-to-man system is the reason why they're so rubbish and get torn apart. I would say it's actually because they've had injuries to their key players, and if you put better players in, they'll be much better.
It's also what aided them in doing very well last season, so I don't understand why it's suddenly to blame. I mean, I do understand.
It's people maybe they've worked it out. You can drag them out of position. That's true, but if you have better players, they can react differently in different situations and know when not to get tracked and not give the ball away in silly positions, and they can finish chances. Like Dan James, really fast, dribbly boy, cannot finish. Cannot shoot. Sometimes he can. He pulls like a rocket out of 20 yards, out of nowhere.
He scored those 2 goals about 2 weeks ago, but then had quite a poor performance following that.
I can't figure him out because I would love him to be a great player. He's got like the physical attributes to be a decent player. But there's some players who just don't quite, I don't know, they don't have the extra bit. Like Theo Walcott could have been amazing. And sure, he had a good career, but he didn't quite have the, I don't know, the killer.
Well, speaking of the extra bit as well, it's worth reminding that Patrick Bamford's been out almost all season, right?
Bamford's a massive miss. That's one. Calvin Phillips is huge.
The team.
Liam Cooper's been out most of the season. The goal and your confidence drops. Then little things happen. Like the goalkeeper's been beaten at his near post a couple of times recently. Meslier, really good player, young, you make mistakes.
Yep.
That's one of them that he'll be doing. And then that means you've got to put players in other positions to kind of cater for it. If Bielsa had his strongest team available, I think they would have been much better off. But if you have to look at the players, they're not actually that good. It's not that good a squad. It's a lot of them are championship people who got promoted. So you've got players like Rafinha, like star buy that comes in. Rodrigo's done well. But he doesn't start every week even. Firpo, all right.
I've been a little bit disappointed with Rodrigo.
Yeah, he was at Valencia before though, wasn't he? Yeah. He was never that big a star there. It's kind of a surprise buy. Rafinha's could play top 6 Premier League player. But I mean, the system with Bielsa is what got them promoted. He improved the players because they were playing in the system that works. If you remove one part of that, it suddenly doesn't function as automatically it's supposed to, and so then it's a bit weaker. And even like Man United, I remember them tearing them apart just by running from midfield, because he would take a midfielder and marking them with them and open things up, leave space elsewhere. There's no, like, I prefer, if I was setting up a team, which I'm not a manager, so I wouldn't, but I like a zonal system. But in certain situations, whenever I've played really bad level Sunday League, I hate when someone's tight to me. I hate it, because then you can't get away. But if you're a good player and you know you've got the run on someone, maybe it's better doing that. Like if you're man-to-man tight, like another example of man-to-man marking when I see it sort of works and doesn't, is Aberdeen under Derek McInnes used to always do it against Celtic. He used to go man-to-man. Because if every single player has the better, like the beating of his man is always on, or I should say person, shouldn't I? Maybe better instead of the beating of the person.
Sure.
Then they can, they in theory should be able to negate their influence on the game. Like, I had Luke Ayling was traveling around following. Who was it? He was following around in this game. Son. He was just following all out of position. But like, so Leeds is back. I know I'm going between the two teams a lot here, but Leeds is. Are normally set up as a +1 system at the back. So if they're playing against a team with 2 forwards, they'll play 3. So there's always 1 free. And
the spare player.
Yeah, 2 defenders will stay tight to the strikers, and they'll go largely where they are. They can hand them over, that's fine. But there's always 1 spare who used to be Ben White. Like that was what really helped them in the championship, was having that player. Then you have players like Liam Cooper, who's very good and like a real competitive player. I think Ayling played it right back in the championship season, I think. And then Ayling's had to play centre-back a lot, and you move other things around. You lose the progressive passes of Ben White, which makes a big difference to how they construct play, because a lot of it, Bielsa is very, very vertical. They want to go from back to front. Well, Calvin Phillips is so important. He drops into that kind of left half space in the defence to then be able to launch long passes. Losing that means they can't get the ball up top. And so they'd often play a 4-1-4-1 or a 3-3-1-3 with the one in the middle, like a trequartista, stays in the middle, and play builds around them. But without the players to be able to do that properly, it doesn't function. And when you see it with Aberdeen against Celtic, what would always happen is that they would, so if you're +1 at the back, you'd be like -1 at the front. So if you're playing 1 striker, the whole job of that forward is to like close off the goalkeeper passes to a defender. The idea of the striker is to block the pass to one of the other defenders to encourage them to pass another way so other people can push up. But you're -1 in that sort of, at that stage of the press. And then I forgot what my point was, but it was really good.
Yeah. I enjoyed what you were saying.
If I can remember what it was, I'd love to finish it off.
Zonal marking makes me feel safer. I think particularly.
I rely on the shape. I think it's safer being able to show things wide. Like I always think it's really hard. You watch Man City playing against a team who just sit in a block, and you have to put the ball in the box, and sometimes they get away with it. But it feels safer to me than leaving space. And in Sunday League, I think when people try and play man-to-man and make you chase down people, I think you should hold the shape. Because then it's harder to play through. It's hard, you have to go wide. I mean, that's just, people have, like, some managers have their own sort of thing, and Bielsa's has worked for years and years and years, and the best ones are probably a mixture. I can't remember if Cruyff was man-to-man for a lot of his teams. It probably changed from time to time. Yeah. I can't remember my point, but this is what my point was with the -1 forward. So if the striker blocks off that pass, he's not trying to win the ball, he's trying to block off options. That defender then just travels, and because so it's a ball playing centre back. Christopher Ayer used to do it for Celtic a lot. He's now at Brentford. So then Ayer would just carry the ball forward into midfield unopposed because everyone already had a man. And the minute someone then left their man to go and deal with him, someone else was free, and that's how they get overloads so quickly.
The domino effect.
And it was just that one goal, and as soon as they score one, suddenly the game changes, and they're able to score 3-4 quite easily. Like it can change everything. But if you can, every tactical system, whether zonal or man marking, even at set pieces or an open play, will look good sometimes and bad at others. But Leeds crazy open at the moment because they don't have the players I think that are good enough to work in the system the way it's supposed to. So they've conceded so many goals. Like Bielsa said in his last interview post match that I saw. He said, people ask him whether you should play more defensive. Like, why don't you just try and lock it down? Like the standard thing, be like Sean Dyche has done so well at Burnley. And he goes, well, just because it's an option doesn't mean it's the right one, roughly. I'm really translating them badly here. Paraphrasing, I should say. But essentially says, just because there's other options doesn't mean they're the right ones. Like this system has worked before, it will work again. It's just these games it hasn't. And people judge everything in football as black or white immediately. The minute something bad happens or something good happens.
Yeah. Football. I think that's correct. The analysis of football. Well, in terms of Bielsa himself, Seb, I think it's fair to say, whilst lots of supporters understand why what's happened has happened, I mean, I suppose it goes without saying that it's a very sad day for Leeds supporters because Bielsa has become a bit of a cliche. He's become much more than just a manager of Leeds or a head coach of Leeds. He was very important to the city. Everyone absolutely loved and adored him. I think he also made some overture as to understanding the decision being made at this time. It's no one's happy about it. It doesn't really feel like that much of a relief, does it? It's kind of a sad departure.
Yeah, I think this was a first for me actually because I don't think I've ever seen or ever read an announcement of a manager's departure and then seen in the final paragraph a plan to kind of immortalize that manager in statue, or there's plans for a tribute. I don't know what form that tribute's going to take at Leeds. Haven't seen that before, but I think if you mix in a couple of things here, first of all, that Bielsa is a kind of counterpoint to so much of what you see in the day-to-day of English football, British football over the last sort of forever. And so a character like that, someone who thinks about the game in the way that he does, someone that behaves as he does, he is a natural draw for anybody's affection.
Sure.
Particularly for Leeds, just consider how miserable it has been supporting Leeds over the past 20 years at different times, and how helpless and how futile it will all have felt at different stages. And then you bring in Bielsa, beyond the tactical stuff, Bielsa's big thing is doesn't like to take jobs where he doesn't develop some kind of attachment to the local area. I forget the phrase he uses, but he always talks about wanting to sense something from the local population, local geography. And so when you have a coach like that, when you have someone who talks about an area as he has done, of course there's an affection for him. And from a literal footballing perspective, he has given Leeds United their dignity back in many ways. Okay, didn't feel very dignified being beaten 4-0 by Spurs, but generally speaking, put them back in the Premier League. JJ's right, there are a lot of championship players in that squad, but a lot of championship players who have improved way beyond the levels they were expected to. Also, he has helped to deliver, some wonderful footballers. Rafinha is a fabulous player. If he was sold tomorrow, he'd go for 50, 60 million pounds to a really good club. Rodrigo is a good player. Calvin Phillips, I was very touched by Calvin Phillips' statement, or I think it was an Instagram post. He talked about how Bielsa had allowed him to become a player that even he didn't feel he could ever be, which beyond all the sort of the moaning about Bielsa using a translator and his idiosyncrasies and stuff like that, when players say that about you, that's the thing you should listen to, really. Bamford's the same. Bamford's released a similar statement on social media and said much the same thing. Bielsa has given a lot of players a footballing future which otherwise they wouldn't have had. Bamford's an interesting one because if you think about how Bamford was treated by Sean Dyche, for instance, Sean Dyche just hated Patrick Bamford by all accounts. And Bamford has spoken about that before in interviews. And yet, and And we don't have to go too far back to remember kind of all the sort of the negativity around Bamford when Leeds got promoted. I think we even talked about it. Let's be fair. I think one of the topics of conversation around that time was, can Bamford score at Premier League level? Yeah, he did. He's got a lot of goals at Premier League level, and he won an England cap, and that is Bielsa. It's Bamford too, but a lot of managers have worked with Patrick Bamford and got nothing out of him.
Yeah.
And the same is true of Calvin Phillips. So it's a
special guy.
Special guy. Has a special place in football culture. And I've never got there's a weird kind of Schadenfreude that sort of was uncorked by this bad
using his German words on my English-speaking podcast.
And I never understood it. The negativity around Bielsa, the kind of, oh yeah, see, he's a fraud. It's like, well,
it's because British media rejects
interesting, man. Like, yeah, but why? I was watching. There was somebody put it on Twitter of Keys and Gray doing their kind of get Sam Allardyce in. That was literally the recommendation for what Leeds should do next. And it's like, how can you understand if you don't like Leeds? A lot of people still hate Leeds, and for good reason. But Bielsa is, forget all the tribalism. Bielsa is interesting. The game is better for Bielsa because he's different. He's not just a cookie cutter coach who uses the same expressions, talks in the same way, deals with players in the same way, sets his team up in exactly the same shape forever. Bielsa is different, and he's quirky and weird, and he defends indefensible positions, and he does silly things, and he's stubborn, but he makes the game richer and more interesting.
Well, also, he just seems cool. Like, I'm not a Leeds supporter. I feel a connection to Bielsa. I watched Leeds because he was there. I loved seeing him sit on his little seat, and the way that he observed the game, the way that he talked. I really liked the post-match interviews where it's translated on his behalf, because sometimes you'd get a little bit of extra in there, a little bit of sass, or like a kind of, not an eye roll as such, but it created more. There was an interesting dynamic. I like the guy.
It'd be interesting to see what you two think of this. So if I was a head coach and I was managing in a foreign country.
Sorry, no. In a foreign country.
Yeah.
Have a way. But that's fine.
But would you not be tempted to use the translator, given especially the British media's
100%.
Tendency to willfully misinterpret?
Listen, man, I heard you're German. You should definitely use a translator.
a couple.
You should definitely use one, yeah. I agree, because people, as you said, people deliberately misinterpret
look what
things.
happened to Antonio Conte the last couple of weeks. Conte probably deserved it, and he was being emotional, as he said, but at the same time, you completely innocently stumble into that kind of situation sometimes. And so having a translator in a media sensitive job like head coach, I don't understand why more people
Let's not forget how Jose Mourinho got his start, huh?
For sure.
As the translator
of
Bobby Robson.
No, I know, but
in Portugal.
I
know you know. Some of the listeners might not know. You put your hands down. You were going to say something, and then you stopped.
I got muddled. I
got muddled up.
Either got muddled or I lost confidence in what I was going to say. I was reaching a crescendo, and then you
Bielsa is also one of the most respected and highly thought of coaches. Like it's like his little seat. I know it's like he feels like a nice, cool dude, but he was genuinely like a pioneer.
100%.
Guardiola and all that learned so much from him. Like the presentation he did when someone was asking about the scouting. There was that bit against Frank Lampard. Do you remember? When he had a scout looking over the training ground, and he says, "It doesn't. Yes, we did it, but it doesn't even matter because this is what we already have without that person. That's just to see little things. The level of detail is crazy."
Yeah.
And he held. How long did he in there? Like a few hours, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Which you wouldn't never get. And everyone sitting there was like, "This is incredible."
Just did a verbal dossier on Frank Lampard's Derby County.
And then I remember Lampard saying like, "Yeah, when we do similar stuff," I was like, "I bet you don't. I bet your analysis team doesn't do anything. I mean, this is what Bielsa knows." And that sort of
I did like his little seat though.
Oh yeah.
That was my favourite bit about him.
The word is iconic, isn't it? It's like a thing you'd have on a T-shirt or something like that.
Also, because the question for so long in my mind was, when's he going to stop crouching? Because I find it difficult to crouch as Bielsa does, and Bielsa is an older man than I. And his solution: get a little seat. Yes. It's exactly the right thing to do. Adapting, you know what I'm saying?
Before the podcast started, I went next door to have a conversation with another athletic employee, and I adopted that crouching position. And then
did you click?
15 seconds later, it occurred to me that I am now 37 and I cannot. And I fell over.
30 seconds later, it occurred to you that you'd done a poo on the floor.
I just fell over.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
My dignity is.
There you go. That man's legs as a horse. Yeah.
But
anyway.
Yeah.
Ghost boy.
Ghost boy. Farewell to Marcelo Bielsa. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming. And look forward to seeing what you do next.
Hello, Jesse Marsh.
Hello, Jesse Marsh. Should we save that for next week? Let's
Sure.
talk about Jesse Marsh next week.
Sure thing.
Yeah. Okay, fine. West Ham 1-0 Wolves. Wolves were heavily rotated.
I had had a very strong coffee. I'd had a long few weeks.
No, the thing is, the reason I say that, I'm reading exactly what Seb's written here because I didn't watch these games. In fact, I was on holiday in Kent. You know, I went to the pitch and putt, the Tunbridge pitch and putt.
Did it have a windmill?
A win? No, not a mini golf.
Oh.
A pitch and putt.
Oh, I see. Okay.
You understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
Yeah, yeah.
A halfway
Yeah.
between golf, not full golf.
That's not you.
I can't play full
That's not you.
golf, but I can play pitch and putt.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what you guys think of this, actually. My friend Adam, who I went away with to Kent, he really wanted to play golf. And I thought, I quite like to play, but I don't belong at the clubs.
You don't.
I don't.
No,
I know you know that.
Yeah.
But you can
See, now this is good because Seb's going to take my side and you're going to take Adam's side. Adam said it's fine, and he's totally right. You just go. If you're slow, you let people play through. Adam doesn't play golf either. He's just a confident man. And if they're assholes, you just call them a bad word, and it's fine. And you're never going to go back there again, you know. But I can't do that, so I had to find a pitch and putt. And in the end, we actually stayed in a place purely based on where a good pitch and putt I could find was.
So golf clubs are rife with passive-aggressive people who
Yeah.
judge others who aren't as good or as quick as they are.
And I am not good.
Yeah, but also, and also, if you're a beginner and you are a little bit self-aware to start with,
Yeah.
putting you in that situation, it's not good. It's not the route to a happy weekend.
No, it's definitely it wouldn't have been.
And you when
I
things
can't
upset
hit
you,
the ball.
Well, and also you can become a bit angry.
Sure.
You know.
No, I don't. Well, not
But-
anger.
No, but it's
not
more
a
that
danger
you're
to
quite-
other people.
No, but you're quite a big person, and
What are you
equipping you with frustration and a golf club at the same time. I feel like that.
You're making me out to be like a violent thug.
You're very tall.
I'm non-violent, but I can't play golf. Anyway, the pitch and putt was empty. Great place though. Tunbridge pitch and putt. I can't remember what it was called, but it was great there. And then I sat in the driving range as Adam did some driving in the range and listened to the other men, what they were talking about when they were driving in the driving range. And it was great.
What were they saying?
I can't remember, but just stuff. I would never have these conversations. It's so fascinating
I never hear that. Whenever I go to
to
driving
listen to the
range-
golf
I
men.
used to go to the driving range quite a lot in Aberdeen to smash some balls down there.
And they weren't talking.
I don't think so.
No, these
I was
guys
too
were
busy getting
talking.
annoyed at myself for not being able to do the Happy Gilmore, which I try often.
Yeah, I've hurt my hip anyway, so. But that's why, that's some very loud people outside. That's why I didn't watch the West Ham Wolves game. That's the reason why. I did watch the rugby, though.
What?
The Six Nations rugby.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's a very odd podcast today, isn't it?
Yeah.
It was fine.
Can't work out.
West
the
Ham
tone.
Wolves would have been better.
You think it's bad?
No, West Ham Wolves would have been better.
Hmm?
West Ham Wolves would have been better.
No, now we're discussing whether the podcast is good or
Oh,
bad.
probably. Yeah, but I mean,
What do you think?
I think we're 40 minutes in and we're nearly finished. So,
That's true. What do you think, Sol? Sol
Still likes it. I think it's been quite interesting.
Yeah.
I have not had a lot of sleep, so I've been a bit weird, probably. But
No,
I've
you've been
enjoyed
fine.
myself. I've
You
enjoyed
did- I thought you did a good job.
I've enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
I'm tired too. Yeah.
What about, did West Ham enjoy themselves with the rotation?
Well,
of
very
Wolves?
nearly not, because West Ham were dominant. West Ham played very, very well for periods. But then...
You said this was a good game, actually,
yes, it was. It really was.
after you've written 3 paragraphs.
Well, the thing about this is I was writing these notes as a almost full-scale fight was taking place in a train carriage between an angry...
Seb,
an angry
angry
commuter.
Seb.
An angry commuter and a train manager. It was
Yeah.
very, very strange.
Yeah.
And so I was doing...
We're just sending our producer outside to tell them to
Okay.
be quiet.
do some shouting, Sol.
Don't shout, but there we go.
Nice
Yeah, good stuff.
So West Ham did enjoy themselves, but they probably missed 3 or 4 chances in the second half, which would have made this game safe. Wolves, they got a little bit of a head of steam up after about 60 minutes. No Matinho, no Raul Jimenez, no Daniel Podence, no Pedro Neto.
This is the first game Wolves haven't won in about 17 games.
No, they lost against Arsenal during midweek.
That's right. They went 1-0 up.
So they had a very quick turnaround. And it wasn't them at their best. But West Ham, the thing is that West Ham look very, very slender in terms of if Mikel Antonio is clearly struggling a little bit. Just he's played a lot. He doesn't. He looks pretty knackered. He's not quite the force that he was. Jared Bowen didn't have his best game. Love Jared Bowen. I think he's a great player. Declan Rice was excellent. But you feel like an injury to one of these players, including Thomas Souček or any of the defenders, because they're so thin at the back anyway, and West Ham are going to have a problem. And I remember thinking, so this is why every department of your football club needs to work well. So you can have your players, you can have your manager, your coaching staff, technical support staff, your ownership. If one department isn't performing well or isn't complementing the rest of the activity of the football club, eventually it's going to show. So what you'd say over the last sort of 18 months is West Ham have done brilliantly, played some excellent football. The growth of some of the individual players in that team has been outstanding. David Moyes has done a terrific job, but there has been a failure to properly supplement that first team, which is starting to show. If you add up all the games in hand, and I know it doesn't work like this, but if you add up all the games in hand around West Ham, and you are going to adjust their position accordingly, they fall to about 7th or 8th. And I feel like that's a reflection of not Moyes, not the players, just there isn't the strength and depth there at the moment. And that needs to be addressed over the summer, particularly if Declan Rice leaves, of course.
You know, Wolves and how I think we think of them as being quite good, and that the manager's done a very good job, which I do actually think. They are horrifically overperforming on expected goals.
Are they?
So they should plummet. So, for example, expected goals against is 34.76. There's various models. This particular one I've got is Understat. It's a website you get. There's very different
Good site, that, Understat.
Yeah, it's decent. But they've been able to get different models in different places. But this one has them at 34.76 expected goals against.
As in that's the number of goals they should have conceded.
Yeah,
based on the quality of chances.
Yeah, they've actually conceded. So 34.76 versus actual goals conceded of 21.
Whoa. I tell you
almost
what,
14 goal difference.
And think about how well Jose Sarr has played this season as well. So if you take his performance out of it, that's quite concerning. And they just don't create a lot of good chances, which is the worry. They just have to be very, very efficient.
And they're underperforming in that as well. So they've scored fewer goals than they should have according to XG as well.
That's interesting.
It's weird that this happens. And once it balances out, they'll plummet and you'll think, oh, he's not doing very well, a manager. But I think they're decent. So
okay.
Weird.
Everton 0-1 Manchester City. Nothing particularly interesting here. Awful Michael Keane mistake to lose the game, Seb, I think. But we should talk about the VAR decision because it's left me baffled about how the handball laws should now be interpreted.
Yeah, the thing about this is that I don't care whether that is a penalty or isn't, but earlier in the season, Luka Milivojevic, Palace midfielder, was punished for not a similar situation, an identical one.
Oh.
Hit him in the same way. He tried to control the ball with that sort of part of the shoulder.
Sure. The arm.
It's kind of, but it's important. It's
just the one that you pointed at your arm.
Yeah, but it's kind of, this is the problem because we were told that where does the arm start?
Bottom of the armpit.
Shirt line. But it's the same position, hits him in the same place. So either both of these are a penalty or they're both not.
Yeah.
But which one is wrong? Now, I think this is one of the kind of the problems with PGMOL, that
the Pogmol,
the Pogmol, because
Lord of the Rings,
especially when it's come to handballs, what tends to happen is instead of just doing the mea culpa and coming out and say, yeah, we messed that up, mistake, got that wrong, they tweak the rule. They create they create a context in which no mistake was actually made, and everyone gets a little bit more confused.
How many letters have you sent to the PGMOL?
More over the last couple of weeks. It's been my sole focus.
Sure.
Past few weeks.
Are they getting meaner?
No, they're getting less responsive.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean are your letters getting meaner?
Oh, less coherent. I don't know about meaner. Yeah. I mean, I think probably some of the meanness gets lost in that lack of articulation.
Sure.
But so a mess and not helpful. Not helpful.
No.
Maybe there'll be a clarification coming up soon, but Monday afternoon, as yet, there is none.
I do hope so. My favourite part of every week is the PGMOL clarification.
But it is interesting because it's kind of perversely fun to see the knots in which the way in which they'll contort themselves to avoid saying, we got that wrong.
More, PGMOL, more like Cirque du Soleil, huh?
It's very nice.
Because of the contortion.
Yeah, no, I understood. It was very clever.
Circus freaks. Well, that's probably the end, isn't it? Ghost boy.
Ghost train.
Ghost rum.
Ghost rum.
He's not
Rum.
sad, it's just the rain.
I'm JJ
Ghost
Bull,
boy.
and the Super League is good.
It's a video on Tifo IRL. You can watch that.
Oh, we should tell people to watch the
Very
Tifo
cool.
show.
Very
please
cool.
watch the Tifo Football Show. JJ, do you want to tell people what that is?
We've made this show, which is all the things we're doing on Tifo IRL.
The Tifo Football Show.
Yes. And we do it in a studio that's very space age. And so many guests, we have many people doing things where we answer the questions that you give us. So if you ask this question on YouTube or on Twitter, we're going to try and find them, collate them, and then choose the ones that we like. And we're going to try and make explanations for all different kinds of questions.
Yeah, if you
Very
go
cool.
to Tifo IRL, look for the Tifo Football Show, you'll see that the first episode was released on Monday. And you can leave, if you have any questions you'd like us to answer as a listener to this podcast, then drop them in the comments there, or you can tweet at JJ, is probably the best one, at JJ_Bull, or keep an eye out on YouTube. But we also release the occasional community post where we ask for questions and responses, so you can leave them there too. But plenty of ways to access us. I do encourage you to go and watch that, though, because it was a lot of fun for us to make. And we think it's a good thing. There we go. Well, Seb Stafford Blore, thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
Dankeschön.
Oh, Dankeschön.
Yes. And JJ Bull the Bullard, thank you.
Ghost Boy.
Ghost boy. We'll be back next week with something basically the same as this. And until then, take care, all the best, and goodbye.